Jake Murphy wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished repairing the water pump in Sector 7. The machine hummed back to life, sending clean water through the pipes to the homes in New Haven Colony. He smiled and packed his tools away. Another day, another fix. That was his life on this quiet farming world at the edge of human space. The colony was small, maybe 3,000 people. Most were farmers who grew food to send back to Earth. Others were scientists who studied the local plants and animals. Jake was the maintenance chief. When something broke, he fixed it. When something needed building, he built it. It was simple work, but he liked it. He had served in the Earth's military years ago as an engineer. He knew how to fight, how to build weapons, how to blow things up. But those days were behind him. Now he just wanted peace. He wanted to raise his daughter Lucy in a safe place where war and violence were just stories from far away. Lucy was 8 years old and full of energy. She loved to explore the forests around the colony. She collected strange rocks and pressed flowers between the pages of old books. Every evening she would show Jake what she had found during the day. Excitement made him happy. This was the life he wanted for her. The colony had no military. They had a few security guards with simple weapons, but nothing serious. Why would they need more? New Haven was too small and too far away for anyone to bother with. The nearest alien world was months away by ship. They were safe out here in the quiet darkness between the stars. Jake walked home through the center of town. People waved at him from their porches. Children ran past, playing games in the street. The local bar was already filling up with farmers done with their work for the day. Everything was normal. Everything was peaceful. He found Lucy in their small garden behind the house. She was digging in the dirt, looking for worms to show him. Her clothes were covered in mud, but her smile was bright. "Dad, look what I found." She held up a fat earthworm. "Mrs. Patterson says these help the plants grow better." "That's right," Jake said. He sat down next to her in the dirt. "Worms eat dead leaves and turn them into food for the plants." "Oh. Like recycling." Lucy nodded seriously, then carefully put the worm back in the ground. "I want to be a scientist like Mrs. Patterson when I grow up. I want to study all the animals on this planet." Jake smiled. "You can be anything you want, Lucy. That's why we came here, so you could have choices." That night, Jake tucked Lucy into bed and read her a story about brave explorers on distant worlds. She fell asleep halfway through, still smiling. He turned off the light and went to his own room. Tomorrow would be another quiet day of fixing machines and taking care of his daughter. He was content. The attack came at dawn. Jake woke to the sound of explosions. His house shook, and dishes fell from the shelves in the kitchen. He ran to Lucy's room and found her sitting up in bed, scared and confused. "Dad, what's happening?" "Don't know, baby. Get dressed quickly." He looked out the window and saw fires burning in the town center. Strange ships hung in the sky like metal vultures. They were sleek and black, with weapons that glowed with deadly light. Jake had never seen ships like these before, but he knew what they were. Alien warships. His military training came back to him in a rush. He grabbed his emergency kit from under the bed. Inside were weapons he had hoped never to use again. Pulse rifle, ammunition, medical supplies, and communication equipment. He had kept them just in case, but he never thought this day would come. "Lucy, we have to go. Right now." They ran outside into chaos. People were screaming and running in all directions. The alien ships were firing on the town, destroying buildings and vehicles.
Ow.
But this was not a random attack. The aliens were being careful. They were hurting people, driving them toward the center of town like cattle. Jake pulled Lucy into the forest at the edge of town. From the trees, he could see what was happening. The aliens had landed troops. They were tall and thin. With gray skin and long claws, they moved like hunters, quick and silent. They carried weapons that fired bolts of energy, but they were not trying to kill everyone. They were capturing people. "Dad, I'm scared. I know, baby. Stay close to me." Jake watched the aliens work. They were efficient and organized. This was not their first hunt. They had done this before, on other worlds, to other people. The thought made his blood boil. but he forced himself to stay calm. Getting angry would not help Lucy. The aliens drove the captured humans into the town square. Jake counted about 50 people. The rest were either dead or hiding. The alien leader stepped forward. He was bigger than the others, with scars on his face and arms. He spoke in perfect English. "Humans of New Haven, I am Commander Vexstar of the Zephyrian hunting clan. We have come for sport. You are now our prey in the great hunt. Some of you will live, most will not. Those who show courage and skill may earn a quick death. Those who cower will suffer." Jake's hand shook with rage. These aliens saw humans as animals to be hunted for fun. They had traveled across space to kill innocent people for sport. He wanted to charge into the square with his rifle blazing. But he knew it would be suicide. He had to be smart. "The hunt begins at sunset," Vexstar continued. "We will give you until then to scatter into the forest. Use the time well. We are the apex predators of 17 worlds. No prey has ever escaped us for long." The aliens released the humans and watched them run into the woods in panic. Most had no idea how to survive in the wilderness. They would be easy targets when the hunt began. Jake made a hard choice. He could not save everyone, but he could try to save a few. And he could make the aliens pay for what they had done. He and Lucy moved deeper into the forest. Jake knew these woods well. From years of hiking and exploring, he found a small cave hidden behind a waterfall. It was dry and safe, with only one entrance he could defend. "Lucy, I need you to stay here. Just don't come out no matter what you hear. I'll be back for you." "Where are you going?" "To help the others, and to make the bad aliens sorry they came here." Left Lucy with food and water, then set out to gather survivors. He found 12 people hiding in the woods. Most were hurt or scared, but a few were ready to fight. He led them to another cave system on the far side of the forest. "Listen to me," he told them. "These aliens think we're just prey animals. They're wrong. Humans are survivors. We're the most dangerous species on Earth because we never give up. We adapt, we learn, and we overcome. Tonight, we're going to show them what humans can really do." Jake spent the remaining daylight hours preparing. He set traps using his engineering knowledge and military training. He rigged explosives for mining equipment, positioned the survivors in defensive positions with clear escape routes. When the aliens came hunting, they would find that their prey had teeth. As the sun set, Jake heard the howls of the Zephyrian hunters echoing through the forest. The great hunt had begun. But this time, the predators would learn what it meant to be hunted by humans who refused to die quietly. Jake checked his rifle one last time and whispered a promise to his daughter and all the people who had died that day. The aliens wanted a hunt. We would give them one they would never forget. 25 years had passed since the night Jake Murphy's world burned. 25 years since Commander Vexstar and his hunting pack had turned New Haven Colony into their personal killing ground. 25 years since Jake had lost everything, except his daughter and his burning need for justice. Jake stood in the observation deck of the mining station, Deep Rock, watching the stars through the thick glass. His reflection stared back at him, and he barely recognized the man he had become. His hair was now silver, but his body was stronger than it had ever been. His eyes glowed with a faint blue light that came from the neural implants behind them. His hands, once soft from years of simple repair work, were now hard and scarred from decades of preparation. He was no longer just human. He was something more. The transformation had not been easy. After escaping New Haven with Lucy and the other survivors, Jake had spent years studying every piece of alien technology he could find. He learned about Zephyrian biology, their hunting methods, their weaknesses, but studying was not enough. He needed to become strong enough to face them when they returned, because he knew they would return. The neural tracker they had planted in his skull during their last encounter made sure of that. Vexstar had marked him as worthy prey, and Zephyrian. Tradition demanded that marked prey be hunted again when they had grown stronger. Jake had used that tradition against them. He had spent 25 years growing stronger, but not in the way they expected. The door behind him opened with a soft hiss. Lucy entered the room. Now 33 years old and nothing like the scared little girl who had hidden in the cave all those years ago, She was tall and strong, with the same enhanced features as her father. Her skin had a slight metallic sheen from the nanomachines that flowed through her blood. Her movements were fluid and precise, like a dancer or a warrior. The sensors picked up a ship dropping out of hyperspace, she said. "It's them, Dad. The blood claw's back." Jake nodded. He had been expecting this day for years. How long until they reach us? 6 hours. It's maybe less if they push their engines hard. Jake turned away from the window. The mining station around them was empty except for Jake, Lucy, and the 12 other survivors who had joined them over the years. They called themselves the Adapted. Each one had chosen to undergo the same transformations that Jake had pioneered. Each one had become something more than human.
"Alert the others,"
Jake said.
"No, it's time."
Lucy smiled, and Jake saw the same excitement in her eyes that she had shown as a child when she found something interesting in the dirt. But now, instead of worms and pretty rocks, she was excited about the chance to test everything they had. Built together, the mining station Deep Rock had been abandoned for 10 years when Jake and his people found it. It was perfect for their needs. It's far from any shipping lanes, surrounded by asteroid fields that would hide their work, and built strong enough to survive the harsh conditions of space. They'd spent 5 years turning it into something special. The outside, it looked like any other dead mining station. But inside, it was a weapon designed specifically to kill Zephyrian hunters. Jake walked through the corridors, checking systems and making final preparations. The walls were lined with sensors that could track movement, heat, and even the electrical patterns of alien nervous systems. Hidden weapons waited behind false panels, ready to emerge at his command. The air itself could be turned into a weapon, filled with gases that would poison Zephyrian blood while leaving humans unharmed. But the station was just a tool. The real weapons were Jake and his people. In the main engineering bay, Jake found the others making their own preparations. Danny Morrison was checking his enhanced reflexes by catching metal balls thrown at high speed. His nervous system had been modified to process information 3 times faster than a normal human. Lisa Park was testing her new arm, a mechanical replacement that could punch through steel plate. Greg Santos was reviewing tactical data on his internal display, information flowing directly into his enhanced mind. Each of the Adapted had chosen their own path of evolution. Some had focused on physical strength and speed. Others had enhanced their minds or senses. A few, like Lucy, had developed new abilities that no human had ever possessed before. "Status report," Jake said. "All systems green," Danny replied. "The hunters won't know what hit them." "Weapons are loaded and ready," Lisa added. "We've got enough firepower to take down a battleship. The trap is set," Greg said. "Once they dock with the station, they won't be able to leave without our permission." Jake nodded. Everything was ready, but as he looked at his people, he felt a moment of doubt. They had all given up their humanity for this moment. They had become something new, something that might be better than human, but they could never go back to what they were before. "Dad," Lucy said, sensing his thoughts. "We chose this. All of us. We chose to become strong enough to make sure what happened to New Haven never happens again." She was right. They had all made the choice freely. Jake had offered each of them the chance to undergo the transformation, but he had also offered them safe passage to any world they wanted. None of them had chosen to leave. They had all chosen to evolve. The first modifications had been simple. Enhanced muscles, stronger bones, better reflexes. Jake had learned how to do these things by studying captured Zephyrian biotechnology. But as the years passed, he had discovered something amazing. Human biology was more adaptable than any other species he had encountered. Humans could accept modifications that would kill other beings. They could evolve in ways that other species could not. Jake had pushed the boundaries of what was possible. He had grown new organs that could process toxins and survive in hostile environments. He had developed a secondary nervous system that could interface directly with computer systems. He had even learned to modify his genetic code on the fly, adapting to new threats in real time. But the most important change was mental. The enhanced neural networks in his brain allowed him to think in ways that no human had ever thought before. He could process vast amounts of information instantly, predict enemy movements with uncanny accuracy, and coordinate with his team through direct mental links. The other adapted had undergone similar changes, but each had specialized in different areas. Together, they formed a collective intelligence that was greater than the sum of its parts. Ship detected on approach vector, the station's computer announced in Lucy's voice. She had designed the system herself, and it responded to her thoughts as much as her words. Jake felt his heart rate increase, but not from fear, from anticipation. He'd been waiting for this moment for 25 years. Finally, he would have his chance to show Commander Vexstar what humans could become when they refused to stay prey. Lucy, take your position in the control center. Danny, Lisa, Greg, you know where to go. Remember, we want them alive long enough to understand what's happening to them. The adapted moved to their positions with inhuman grace and speed. Jake made his way to the docking bay where the Zephyrian ship would connect to the station. He wanted to be there to greet his old enemies personally as he walked. Jake felt the neural tracker in his skull pulse with activity. The device that had been meant to mark him as prey was now sending a signal to his enhanced brain, telling him exactly where each hunter was on their ship. He had turned their own weapon against them. The docking bay was dark, except for the running lights that would guide the alien ship to a safe berth. Jake stood in the shadows, waiting. His enhanced senses could hear the ship's engines growing louder as it approached. His modified eyes could see the heat signatures of the hunters through the metal walls of their vessel. Commander Vexstar was there, along with 5 other hunters. They thought they were coming to claim easy prey. Instead, they were flying into a trap that had been 25 years in the making. The blood claw settled into the docking cradle with a soft thud. Jake heard the airlocks connecting, the hiss of atmosphere equalizing between the two vessels. Then the hunters began to emerge. They looked exactly as he remembered. Tall, gray-skinned predators with claws and fangs designed for killing. They moved with the confidence of beings who had never met anything they could not hunt and kill. Commander Vexstar stepped onto the station first, his scarred face showing satisfaction at finding his marked prey. "Jake Murphy," he said in perfect English, "you have grown strong in your hiding, but not strong enough. The hunt begins now." Jake stepped out of the shadows, and Vexstar's expression changed from satisfaction to confusion. The human who stood before him was not the same broken survivor who had fled New Haven 25 years ago. This was something new. "Hello, Vexstar," Jake said, his voice carrying harmonics that no human throat should have been able to produce. "I've been waiting for you. We all have." The real hunt was about to begin. But this time, the predators would learn what it meant to be prey. Commander Vexstar stared at Jake Murphy with growing unease. Something was wrong. The human stood too still, breathed too quietly, and his eyes glowed with an unnatural blue light. This was not the desperate prey animal Vexstar remembered from New Haven. "You look different, human," Vexstar said, his claws extending slightly. 25 years have changed you." "Yes, they have," Jake replied. His voice was calm, almost friendly. "Would you like to see how much?" Jake raised his hand, and the lights in the docking bay began to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. The metal walls around them hummed with energy. Vexstar realized with shock that the human was somehow connected to the station itself. "Impossible," Vexstar hissed. "Humans cannot interface with technology like that." "Humans couldn't," Jake said. "But I'm not just human anymore." The other Zephyrian hunters spread out behind their commander, weapons ready. They were nervous now, sensing that something was very wrong with this hunt. The prey was supposed to run, to hide, to beg for mercy. Instead, he stood there like he owned the place. "You have grown arrogant, Murphy," Vexstar said. "Arrogance will make your death more satisfying." "Death?" Jake smiled, and his teeth were now silver metal instead of white bone. "Said anything about dying?" The lights went out. In the darkness, Vexstar heard the sound of his hunters crying out in surprise and pain. Their enhanced night vision should have let them see perfectly, but somehow the darkness was complete.
Ow.
It was as if light itself had been drained from the air. "Hunt protocol activated," a female voice announced through the station's speakers. It sounded human, but no human should have been able to access the station's systems. "Prey animals detected. beginning educational demonstration. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting red shadows through the docking bay. Vexstar saw his hunters stumbling around, trying to understand what was happening. Their weapons were dead. Drained of power, their communication devices were silent. "Welcome to Deep Rock Station," Jake said, his voice now coming from speakers all around them. "I hope you enjoy your stay. You'll be here for a while." The floor beneath the hunters' feet began to move, sections sliding apart to reveal hidden passages. Mechanical arms reached up from below, grabbing at the aliens' legs. The hunters leaped away, but more traps activated wherever they landed. Vexstar realized the truth with growing horror. The entire station was a weapon, designed specifically to capture and kill Zephyrians. Every surface, every corridor, every system had been modified to be deadly to his kind. "How?" demanded. "Humans do not have this technology." "We do now," Jake said. "We learned from the best. We learned from you." Jake stepped forward, moving faster than any human should have been able to move. His hand shot out and grabbed Vexstar's weapon before the hunter could react. With a casual squeeze, he crushed the plasma rifle into scrap metal. 25 years ago, you taught me something important," Jake continued. "You taught me that the galaxy is full of predators who see humans as prey. So I decided to change that." Vexstar swung his claws at Jake's throat, but his strike was too slow. Jake caught his wrist and twisted. Bone cracked, and Vexstar screamed in pain. The human's grip was like a mechanical vice, far stronger than any biological muscle should have been. "Danny," Jake called out, "do you mind helping our guests find their way to the entertainment area?" A figure dropped from the ceiling behind one of the hunters. It moved like liquid shadow, too fast for the eye to follow. The hunter spun around, claws ready, but Danny Morrison was already behind him. The enhanced human's fist connected with the base of the alien's skull, and the hunter collapsed unconscious. "My pleasure, Jake," Danny said. His voice was different now, deeper and more resonant. Like Jake, he had changed far beyond his original human form. Lisa Park emerged from a wall panel that had looked solid moments before. Her mechanical arm gleamed in the red light as she grabbed another hunter and lifted him off the ground with ease. The alien struggled, but her artificial muscles were powered by fusion cells. He might as well have been fighting a construction. "Machine Lisa, be gentle with them," Jake said. "We want them conscious for the main event," of course Lisa replied. She adjusted her grip, and the hunter went limp. Stunned but breathing, Greg Santos appeared from nowhere, his enhanced speed making him seem to teleport from place to place. He had 2 hunters down before they could even see him coming. His movements were perfectly calculated, each strike placed exactly where it would do the most damage without killing. In less than 30 seconds, all of Vexstar's hunters were unconscious or disabled. The great predators of 17 worlds had been taken down like amateur fighters by 4 humans who had evolved beyond recognition. Vex single quotes, Tar found himself alone, still held by Jake's impossibly strong grip. The human's enhanced eyes studied him, like a scientist examining an interesting specimen. "Now comes the fun part," Jake said. "Lucy, would you join us, please?" The air in the center of the docking bay shimmered, and Lucy Murphy materialized out of nothing. She had been there all along, invisible to both normal sight and Zephyrian-enhanced senses. Her ability to bend light around herself was just one of the modifications she had developed over the years. "Hello, Commander Vexstar," she said politely. "I don't think we were properly introduced last time. I was the little girl hiding in the cave while you murdered my neighbors." Vexstar stared at her in shock. This was the child he had ignored 25 years ago, the weak offspring of weak prey. She stood before him like a goddess of war, beautiful and terrible at the same time. "What have you done to yourselves?" he whispered. "We evolved," Lucy replied. "Humans are very good at that. Much better than Zephyrians, it turns out." She gestured with one hand, and the unconscious hunters rose into the air, held up by invisible force fields. With another gesture, she moved them through the air like they weighed nothing. "We spent the first 10 years just learning," Jake explained as they walked deeper into the station. "We studied every piece of Zephyrian technology we could find. We learned your biology, your psychology, your culture. We became experts on how to kill your kind. They entered a large chamber that had once been the station's main mining control room. Now it was something else entirely. Banks of computers lined the walls, their screens showing data streams that hurt to look at. Strange machines hummed with power. The air itself seemed to vibrate with energy. But learning wasn't enough, Lucy continued. We needed to become strong enough to face you as equals, so we started changing ourselves. Jake released Vexstar and stepped back. The hunter immediately tried to attack, but found himself held in place by the same force fields that carried his unconscious companions. The first changes were simple, Jake said. Stronger muscles, better reflexes, enhanced senses. But as we learned more, we discovered something amazing. Human genetics are incredibly adaptable, more adaptable than any other species we've studied. We could accept modifications that would kill other beings, Lucy added. We could evolve in ways that other species couldn't even imagine. Jake walked over to one of the machines and placed his hand on a control panel. The device responded to his touch, systems activating throughout the station. Vexstar could feel the power building around them, threatening and alien. We grew new organs that could process any toxin, Jake continued. We developed secondary nervous systems that could interface with any technology. We even learned to modify our genetic code in real time, adapting to new threats as we encountered them. But the most important change was mental, Lucy said. We enhanced our brains, created new neural networks that let us think in ways no human had ever thought before. It tapped her temple, and Vexstar suddenly understood. The humans weren't just talking to each other. They were thinking together, sharing thoughts and memories through some kind of technological telepathy. They had become a collective intelligence, each individual enhanced by the knowledge and abilities of all the others. We can process information instantly, Jake said. We can predict your movements before you make them. We can coordinate our actions with perfect precision. Most importantly, Lucy added, we can learn from every mistake, every encounter, every piece of data we gather. Each time we fight someone like you, we become better at fighting everyone like you, Vexstar felt. True fear for the first time in his long life as a hunter. These humans had not just become stronger, they had become a new kind of being entirely, one that was designed specifically to be better than everything else in the galaxy. What do you want? He asked. Jake smiled, and there was no mercy in his expression. We want to teach you the same lesson you taught us 25 years ago. We want to show you what it feels like to be prey. The unconscious hunters began to wake up, held in place by Lucy's force fields. They looked around in confusion and growing terror as they realized they were completely helpless. Welcome to the hunt, Jake said. Zephyrian rules apply. Some of you will live. Most will not. Those who show courage and skill may earn a quick death. He paused, his glowing eyes reflecting the red emergency lighting. Those who cower will suffer. The real hunt was about to begin, but this time the predators would learn what their prey had always known. In the end, everyone could be hunted. Everyone could be caught. Everyone could be made to pay for their crimes. The hunt began in the lower levels of Deep Rock Station. Jake released the Zephyrian hunters one by one into the maze of corridors and chambers that had once housed mining equipment. Now those same spaces had been transformed into something far more dangerous. Commander Vexstar was the first to be set free. Jake dropped him into Section 12, a series of narrow tunnels that connected the old ore processing plants. The hunter landed hard on the metal floor, his injured wrist sending pain up his arm. But pain was nothing new to a Zephyrian warrior. The rules are simple. Jake's voice echoed through speakers hidden in the walls. Survive for 1 hour and you earn the right to face me in single combat. Fail, and you join your victims in death. Vexstar snarled and began moving through the tunnels. His enhanced senses picked up the scent of metal, old machinery, and something else. Something that smelled like danger. The air itself felt wrong, charged with energy that made his skin crawl. He had taken 3 steps when the first trap activated. The floor beneath his feet tilted suddenly, trying to dump him into a pit filled with spinning blades. Vexstar leaped to safety, his natural agility saving him from being cut to pieces. But as he landed, gas began pouring from vents in the ceiling. The gas burned his lungs, and made his eyes water. It was designed specifically to attack Zephyrian biology, targeting their enhanced respiratory system. A normal human would have been unaffected. But for Vexstar, it was like breathing liquid fire. He ran deeper into the tunnels, trying to escape. The gas behind him, he could hear the mechanical sounds of the station resetting its traps. This was not a simple maze. It was a living weapon that adapted to his movements, learning from his responses and preparing new challenges. In Section 15, his hunter Crix faced a different test. The room was completely dark, even to his enhanced night vision. Something was moving in the darkness with him, something that breathed like a human but moved like a machine. "I can smell your fear," Danny Morrison's voice whispered from the shadows. "It smells like defeat." Crix spun around, claws extended, but struck only empty air. Danny was everywhere and nowhere, moving through the darkness with perfect silence. The human had evolved beyond normal limitations. His enhanced nervous system allowing him to process sensory information faster than any natural brain. A hand touched Crix's shoulder. He spun and slashed, but Danny was already gone. Another touch. This time on his back, then his arm, then his leg. Each contact was brief, barely more than a whisper of movement. But each one proved that the human could kill him whenever he chose. "You want to know the difference between us?" Danny asked from the darkness. "When you hunt, you rely on fear. You want your prey to be afraid because it makes them weak and stupid. But when we hunt, we eliminate fear entirely. We don't want you afraid. We want you to understand." Crix felt something wrap around his ankle. He looked down and saw a cable made of some kind of smart metal, thin as wire but strong as steel. It began to pull him toward the wall, where he could see the outline of machinery designed to tear him apart in Section 20. Lisa Park stalked her prey through what had once been the station's main assembly area. The hunter Mordock was strong and fast, his claws sharp enough to cut through steel. But Lisa had advantages he could never match. Her mechanical arm could punch through armor plating. Her enhanced skeleton could withstand impacts that would shatter normal bones. Most importantly, she felt no pain and never grew tired. She was a fusion of human intelligence and mechanical precision, designed specifically to hunt beings like Mordock. The alien tried to hide behind a massive piece of mining equipment, but Lisa's sensors could track his heat signature through solid metal. She walked calmly toward his hiding place, her footsteps echoing through the chamber like a countdown to doom. "Come out, Mordock," she called. "Let's finish this quickly." Mordock leaped from cover, hoping to catch her off guard. His claws aimed for her throat, a killing strike that had ended hundreds of lives across the galaxy. But Lisa moved with mechanical speed, catching his wrist in her artificial hand and squeezing until bones cracked. "You killed a teacher on New Haven," she said calmly as Mordock screamed. Her name was Sarah Williams. She taught children how to read. She never hurt anyone in her entire life. Lisa's other hand grabbed Mordock's leg and lifted him into the air. With casual strength, she threw him across the chamber. He crashed into the far wall hard enough to leave a dent in the metal. "You killed a farmer named Peter Chen. He grew food to feed hungry people. His only crime was being human." She picked him up again and threw him in a different direction. Each impact broke more of his bones, but she was careful to avoid anything that would kill him quickly. "You killed a little girl named Emma Rodriguez. She was 6 years old. She liked to draw pictures of flowers." By the time Lisa was finished listing names, Mordock could no longer stand. But he was still alive, still conscious, still able to understand. What was being done to him and why? In the central command center, Jake and Lucy watched the hunt unfold on dozens of screens. Each camera showed a different section of the station, a different hunter learning what it meant to be prey. The adapted moved through the maze like ghosts, always one step ahead of their targets, always in perfect control. "Greg has his hunter cornered in Section 7, Lucy reported. "Danny is playing with his in Section 15. Lisa is making her point in Section 20, and Vexstar." Jake asked. "Still running? Still learning?" "He's figured out that the gas traps target Zephyrian biology. Now he's trying to map the station layout to find safe routes." Jake nodded approvingly. "Good. Intelligence is the first step toward understanding." Let him think he's getting smarter. It will make the final lesson more effective. On the screens, they watched Greg Santos demonstrate why enhanced speed was only useful if you could see your enemy coming. His hunter Varix was fast enough to dodge bullets. But Greg had evolved beyond normal human limitations. His enhanced brain could predict Varix's movements by analyzing muscle tension and body position. By the time Varix decided to move, Greg was already waiting where he would land. Prediction is better than reaction, Greg explained, calmly as he systematically broke Varix's legs. You think 3 seconds ahead? Think 30 seconds ahead? You're fighting the present. I'm fighting the future. The hunt continued for 47 minutes. One by one, the legendary hunters of the Zephyrian clan were captured, broken, and left to consider their crimes. They had spent their lives believing they were the apex predators of the galaxy. Now they learned what it felt like to be at the bottom of the food chain. Commander Vexstar was the last to fall. He had made it further than the others, using his intelligence and experience to avoid the worst traps. But in the end, he faced the same truth as his hunters. Evolution had passed him by. Jake found him in Section 1, backed against a wall with nowhere left to run. The proud commander, who had terrorized 17 worlds, was now just a broken alien, gasping for breath and bleeding from a dozen wounds. 1 hour, Jake announced. Time's up. Vexstar looked up at him with hate-filled eyes. You have become monsters. Jake replied calmly. We became what we needed to become, to stop monsters like you. He gestured, and the other adapted appeared from various entrances to the chamber. They carried the unconscious forms of the other hunters, depositing them on the floor like trophies from a successful hunt. For 25 years you thought you had marked me as prey, Jake continued, but you were wrong. You marked yourself. Every piece of technology you left behind, every drop of blood you spilled, every moment of terror you caused, taught us more about how to destroy you. Lucy stepped forward, her hands glowing with energy that came from technology no Zephyrian had ever imagined. We studied your species for decades. We learned your biology, your psychology, your culture. We know your weaknesses better than you know them yourselves. And now, Danny added, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to move faster than Vexstar's eyes could follow. We're going to share that knowledge with the galaxy. Lisa activated a communication array that had been hidden in the walls. Suddenly, screens throughout the chamber lit up with images of alien worlds, space stations, and starships. The hunt had been broadcast across every communication network. In known space, every species that has ever been hunted by Zephyrians is watching, Lisa explained. Every government that has ever feared your raids is learning. We're showing them that predators can become prey. Greg manipulated controls with machine-like precision, uploading data files to every connected system. Complete biological analysis of Zephyrian physiology, detailed tactical assessments of their hunting methods, proven countermeasures for their technology. Everything anyone would need to defend themselves against your kind. Jake knelt down next to Vexstar, his enhanced eyes glowing in the dim light. This was never about revenge, Commander. This was about evolution. We evolved beyond being your prey. Now we're helping everyone else evolve beyond being anyone's prey. He stood up and looked around at his companions, his family, his fellow guardians of a new age. Send the final message. Lucy's voice carried across every communication channel in the galaxy, translated into every known language by the station's advanced computers. This is Lucy Murphy, speaking for the adapted of humanity. 3 days after the broadcast, the galaxy began to change. Jake stood in the communication center of Deep Rock Station, watching messages pour in from across known space. Reports arrived every few minutes from worlds that had never dared to speak against their oppressors. For the first time in centuries, prey species were fighting back. The Altarian Council has declared independence from the hegemony, Lucy reported, reading data streams directly through her neural interface. They're using our biological data to create weapons that target hegemony physiology specifically. Mining colonies in the Vega system have formed a defense alliance, Danny added. 3 different predator fleets have already been destroyed trying to raid them. And the Kepler research station successfully fought off a Zephyrian hunting party using modified pulse weapons, Lisa said. No casualties among the defenders. Greg looked up from his console. The Terran Colonial Authority is requesting immediate access to our enhancement protocols. They want to start adaptation programs for frontier worlds. Jake nodded slowly. The changes were happening faster than he had expected. Word of human evolution was spreading through the galaxy like wildfire. And everywhere it went, the balance of power shifted. But not everyone was happy about the changes. We're also getting hostile communications, Lucy continued. The Draconian Empire has issued a formal declaration calling us a threat to galactic stability. The Syndicate has put a bounty on all adapted humans, and the hegemony is mobilizing battle fleets. Jake had expected this. The predator species that had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years would not give up their positions easily. They would fight to preserve a system that allowed them to hunt and kill without consequences. How long until they reach us? He asked. The first hegemony fleet will arrive in 6 days, Greg calculated. They're bringing everything they have. 50 battleships, 200 cruisers, and 1,000 support vessels. What about the others? Draconian forces will arrive in 8 days. Syndicate fleets in 10 days. If they coordinate their attacks, we'll be facing the combined might of 3 galactic empires. Jake smiled. He had been hoping for this moment. Galaxy's predators were finally taking humanity seriously as a threat. That meant they were ready for the next phase of human evolution. Signal the other stations, he ordered. God, it's time for the real demonstration. Over the past 25 years, Deep Rock had not been the only project the Adapted had worked on. Hidden throughout the galaxy were 12 other stations, each one staffed by evolved humans and equipped with technologies that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Station Omega-7 reporting ready, came a voice over the communication. The system, it belonged to Marcus Webb, one of the first humans to undergo full adaptation. His modifications focused on engineering and technology, allowing him to build things that should have been impossible. Station Theta-3 standing by, reported Helen Carter. Her specialty was biological warfare. She had developed weapons that could target specific genetic markers, making it possible to kill entire species while leaving others unharmed. Station Delta-9 ready for action, called out Robert Kim. His focus was on space combat. He had designed ships that could move faster than light without using traditional hyperspace technology. One by one. All 12 stations reported their readiness. Each one represented a different aspect of human adaptation, a different way that humanity had evolved beyond its original limitations. What's the status on the enhancement protocols? Jake asked Lucy. Distribution is proceeding as planned, she replied. We've sent the basic modifications to over 300 worlds. The more advanced protocols have been shared with allied governments. Within a year, there could be millions of enhanced humans spread across the galaxy. Jake felt a moment of uncertainty. They were changing not just themselves, but their entire species. Once this process began, there would be no going back. Humanity would never again be the simple, peaceful race that had once farmed on worlds like New Haven. Dad, Lucy said, sensing his thoughts through their shared neural link. Are you having second thoughts? No, Jake replied after a moment. But I want to be sure we're doing this for the right reasons. We're not just seeking revenge anymore. We're changing the fundamental nature of what it means to be human. The fundamental nature of what it means to be human is to adapt and survive, Danny said. We've just taken that ability and made it deliberate instead of accidental. Besides, Lisa added, look at what's happening out there. Species that have been enslaved for thousands of years are finally fighting back. Worlds that lived in terror are now building defenses. We're not just changing humanity. We're giving everyone else the chance to change too. Ah! Jake nodded. She was right. The enhancement protocols they had shared were not limited to humans. Any species could use them, adapting the techniques to their own biology. For the first time in galactic history, prey species had access to the same evolutionary advantages that had made predators dominant. Incoming transmission from Earth, Greg announced. It's Admiral Patricia Stone of the Colonial Defense Force. The main screen activated, showing a middle-aged woman in military uniform. She looked tired but determined, like someone who had been fighting a losing war for too long and finally saw hope. "Jake Murphy," she said. "I'm not sure whether to thank you or arrest you. In 3 days, you've turned the entire galaxy upside down." "Admiral Stone," Jake replied. "I remember you from the old days. You were a lieutenant when I left Earth. That was a lifetime ago. I'm in charge of defending human colonies from exactly the kind of predators you just humiliated. My question is simple. Are you with us or against us?" Jake considered the question carefully. Earth's government had always been cautious, preferring negotiation to conflict. They would not approve of what he had done or what he planned to do next. "That depends," he said finally. "Are you ready to accept that humanity needs to evolve if it wants to survive in this galaxy?" Admiral Stone was quiet for a long moment. In the background, Jake could see other officers watching the conversation with intense interest. "The Colonial Council met in emergency session 12 hours ago," she said eventually. "The vote was close, but they've authorized me to offer you full support for your adaptation program. We want to begin enhancement procedures for our military forces immediately. And the civilian population? Voluntary participation only? We're not going to force anyone to change. But we're also not going to stop those who want to evolve." Jake smiled. Earth was finally ready to embrace the future that he and the other adapted had been building. "Transmitting enhancement protocols now," Lucy announced. "We're also sending technical specifications for defensive systems and weapon designs. Admiral Stone, within 6 months, you'll have the strongest military force in the galaxy." "What about the fleet's heading your way?" Admiral Stone asked. "Our intelligence says you're facing overwhelming odds." "Let me worry about that," Jake replied. "We've been preparing for this moment for 25 years. It's time to show the galaxy what fully evolved humans can do." After the transmission ended, Jake gathered his team in the central command center. Outside the station, space was empty and peaceful. But that peace would not last much longer. "Status report," he requested. "All stations are ready," Greg reported. "Weapons charged, defenses active, enhancement protocols distributed, fleet positions," Jake asked. "Monty forces are 4 days out and closing fast," Danny said. "They're not trying to hide. They want us to see them coming," good Jake said. "Fear makes predators stupid. Stupid predators are easy to defeat." Lucy activated the station's long-range sensors, displaying a 3-dimensional map of local space. Hundreds of red dots represented enemy ships converging on their position. It looked like certain death for anyone trapped at Deep Rock, but Jake was not worried. The enemy fleets were flying into a trap that had been 25 years in the end. Making signal all stations, he ordered. "Begin final preparations. Open a communication channel to every inhabited system in the galaxy. It's time for the galaxy to see what happens when predators hunt the apex species." As his words echoed across space, Jake felt the weight of what they were about to do. No, they were not just defending themselves anymore. They were announcing to the universe that humanity had evolved beyond the need for protection, beyond the fear of being hunted, beyond the limitations that had once defined their species. The age of human prey was ending. The age of human dominance was about to begin in the depths of space. The enemy fleets continued their approach, confident in their overwhelming numbers and superior firepower. They had no idea that they were not hunting humans anymore. They were about to face something that had never existed before in the galaxy, a species that had chosen its own evolution, directed its own adaptation, and emerged as the ultimate predator. Jake removed the neural tracker from his skull, the device that had marked him as prey for 25 years. But instead of destroying it, he modified it one final time, turning it into a beacon that would call every predator species in the galaxy to witness what was about to happen. The hunt was over. Evolution had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. "Let them come," Jake whispered, watching the approaching fleets on his sensors.